So Harrison Price, try this again for Monday, July 13th, 2026, presentation of Bet365. At Bet365, boring games, a thing of the past. Now there's always a reason to tune in, even if the score isn't one of them. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Matt Sakaris with Blake Price, 4-time Juno Award winner, 2-time provincial basketball champion. And world log rolling champion Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, especially if that's where you're watching right now. Give us a like. Or on podcast, whatever platform you may choose. Happy Monday, everybody. We heard you late last week. It was the wrong time to take a couple of days off. We missed Thursday's and Friday's show. And, of course, had no way of knowing that 48 hours before this planned maintenance, Vancouver would lose its only sports talk radio station. So I saw all the comments. What a time to take a couple days off, guys. I'm already missing my 6:50. You guys, we had been having some computer trouble. In fact, we were still having some computer trouble this morning. But we think we got a handle on it. So thank you for your patience on all that. We do go to a reduced summer schedule, but anywhere between 2 and 4 shows every week of the summer. You're invited here. High noon Pacific time, weekdays.
Many are asking if Big Cellular was trying to get us off the air. No! There's their own ghosts in the machine there.
That's right.
And that machine will be out on Hornby Street.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone's looking
EOD.
for... Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen that scene in, what was it called?
Office Space?
Office Space?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be having that.
Yeah.
Anyway, glad to be with you.
Yeah. Mike, I'm going to need you. Okay.
That was a printer, but we're going to do it to the mainframe here.
Toner.
Oh, my God. I'm going to treat the computer like the bison treated the old dude at Yellowstone.
Boy.
That's what's going to happen.
You know, I see these videos of people getting out of their cars to get
Apparently he was twice the recommended distance. He was twice the recommended distance.
It's a freaking bison. If it charges at you, you've got problems. I don't care the distance.
Bison safety.
Right.
That's where.
So anyways,
this show.
I hope everybody had a splendid weekend.
Oh,
I know
man.
I sure did, because on Saturday, I got my first opportunity to head down to the official FIFA Fan Fest at the PNE. I had seen Jackpool Plaza. I had spent some time on Granville during World Cup festivities. But I did want to get to the PNE where it's all going down, and got a chance to see our friends, the Matinee, play. They did the pregame concert there and were outstanding as always. And then we made our way into the new amphitheater, Blake, to watch the England-Norway match. Yeah, there's the Matinee. There's our buddies Jeff and Matt on guitar, who are absolutely killing it. And thank you to the two of them and the whole crew for being such great hosts with us. And then we made our way into the amphitheater to watch the England-Norway match. And my first opportunity to see anything there, I know some of you may have been to concerts, Motley Crue, Blues Traveler. It's been a really nice list of acts who have come out to perform and open this new venue up. My goodness, is it outstanding.
It looks great.
Simple, right? And this is going to be a real asset for Vancouver going forward for summer concert series. Well, and more, right? Because there's a lot of versatility to that space. So in terms of legacy of Vancouver hosting or having World Cup hosting duties in 2026, hey, this one will endure.
Yeah, it's a good one. And, you know, all the elements that can strike Vancouver kept away
Yeah.
You can
I
schedule
mean, if
an
the
outdoor
rain's coming
concert.
sideways, there's still going
Yeah.
to be some wet people there. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. And a nice reprieve shade in a lot of areas, right? For the
That's
hot
right.
summer
Yeah.
days. So,
Yeah.
anyways, fantastic.
And the
time.
matinee boys are doing well.
They're doing very well. They're doing super duper.
I
They
planned
have
on
not
being
aged in the least. I was saying to Matt, when he does the guitar solo, he is still able to get perfectly perpendicular. You know, the guitar held up rock star.
yes. Gotta have that.
So, yeah. Let's get to our daily poll question. Asking you, does another inexperienced Canucks coaching staff concern you? You can vote yes. You can vote no. Do so at the S&P X and YouTube channels. The Canucks, they love their Friday news dumps, huh?
They do.
Friday released the names of the new coaching staff for new head coach Manny Malhotra, and there they are. So the three new assistants, Ryan Muginel, who comes from the American Hockey League's Providence Bruins in the Boston system, Jordan Smith, who had been there with Manny along the Abbotsford route, and of course that includes a Calder Cup championship in 2025, and Jason Krog, a former Vancouver Canuck who had been working as a skills development coach with both the big club and the AHL team. Andrew Shaw, an assistant to the video coach. Marco Terranius remains as goaltender coach. We knew that. Look, this is the second straight year that they've named a coaching staff light on experience. As we know, Adam Foote was a first-time NHL head coach and did not have a ton of seasoned NHL bench guys with him. In this year's case, I mean, unless I was missing something reading their bios, and Muginel is a former AHL coach of the year, and there is highlights on the resume from these gentlemen in terms of what they've done below the NHL level. But unless I'm missing something or something wasn't outlined in the release, there's not a single game of NHL bench experience amongst the three assistants that were named on Friday.
No, and you know, again, it's impossible for us to say these are bad hires. It's impossible to say this won't work out. And these may be jewels in the rough. These may be people that have deserved breaks far before this and just never got them. So you can certainly contend that. But I think those that want to be cynical can also just point to what you said, that no NHL experience, not exactly household names, haven't previously been on too many up-and-comers lists for NHL jobs. You know,
and we know budget's a thing. It was the thing with Ryan Johnson. There were reports he's the lowest paid NHL general manager, making less than $1 million.
Assistants traditionally don't cost a ton anyhow.
Right, but it almost seems like
we're splitting hairs.
Every penny counts here.
Yeah.
And look, of course, the presidents are first-time presidents. The GM's a first-time GM. The head coach is a first-time head coach, all at the NHL level. And now you have three new assistants who are also cutting their teeth. And look, it's a rebuild. If young doesn't necessarily apply because some of these gentlemen are a little bit older, then at the very least a less experienced staff to grow with a young team. Okay, I can abide that. I can understand that. You know, as we've talked about, very few head coaches make it to the other side of the rainbow of a rebuild, so assistant coaches are even less likely to. But of course, the difference between this year and the coaching staff and last year with Adam Foote and company, last year they were trying to win. This year, there is no delusions of grandeur here. I suspect you'll hear Manny and Ryan Johnson talk about winning in training camp where everybody's a contender. And I mean, you can't set the standard in terms of we're trying not to win with these players, because you have young players here who you hope are part of the solution going forward. But let's face it, if it comes to upper management, if they had another poor year and were amongst the highest lottery odds to draft one of Landon Dupont or Alexei Joseph or Nazar Privalov, the top 2027 draft contenders, I don't think they would have a problem with that. I think they realize what they're getting into and that this is the front end.
I think they will choose their words carefully when talking about aspirations and win and lose. Even the coaching staff too, Matt. I think they're going to say something like, hey, if we have extraordinary health, we're not going to put a lid on where this team can go, but we also know that development is a key part. Like, they'll couch it like that, but I think like they will not lead people astray to think, hey, you never know, we could be a playoff team. Like that kind of talk, I don't think we're going to hear it. I think they're.
Oh, I think there'll be some of that.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think
Officially?
there'll be.
Nah.
I think there'll be a little. Hey, maybe we can just surprise people. People take us lightly. If we get holistic efforts 84 times this year.
I would be surprised. They don't want to sound like they don't know what they're talking about. That would be a number one way for you to sound delusional day one or week one on the job. I think they're going to be very conservative.
Yeah, but they're competitive people. The job is to win.
As I said, you can still leave the door ajar.
The coaches and players are going to give their all out to win.
You say,
and so
we're not going to put
there
a
will
lid
be
on
some
wins.
platitudes. There will be some
playoffs will not be
points to
mentioned.
that.
Playoffs will not be mentioned. Guaranteed.
I would suspect that playoffs will not be mentioned, but I would bet if they're asked, they're like, hey, we're going to fight like hell and see where the chips fall. Like, they're not going to come out at the beginning of the year and say we're not a playoff team. Like they're going to say, hey, effort, everybody.
Has anybody ever done that? Has anybody ever said on day without a game played, we're not a playoff team? I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, at this time last year, people were saying the Pittsburgh Penguins are so bad, they are absolutely going to be one of the top lottery teams. They made the playoffs.
With 2 certified Hall of Famers still on the roster. Probably 3 certified Halls. Yeah.
But every year you have 2 to 3 teams in the NHL that really surprise. Sapster dug this out. So Jordan Smith is an old Kyle Dubas guy. And Kyle Dubas was singing his praises once upon a time when he was with the Leafs. Over my 25 plus years of knowing Jordan Smith, dating back to being elementary school classmates. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Minor hockey defense partners. Goodness gracious. I know him to be a person of great character, admire his ability to overcome the many obstacles he's had placed in his way on his path in hockey and in life. He did a great job with the Sioux Thunderbirds in his time, Kyle Dubas' time with the Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League. The Sudbury Wolves players who play for him will have the opportunity to learn and develop. This is when he was coaching in Sudbury. Mouginel, as you may know, the HL's Providence Bruins, and it came up when we were looking at Evan Gold, the turns out to be runner-up candidate for the Canucks general manager's job, that things weren't all that hunky-dory with the Providence Bruins towards the end of the season. Now, big piece of context there. You often have unhappy campers at the American Hockey League level because they feel like they're not getting their shot in the NHL, or they feel like they need more ice time. If only coach gave me more ice time, I could get to the NHL. So it tends to be a bitter patch where you don't have to look long and hard to get a disgruntled player or a disgruntled agent. So take all that with a grain of salt. But anyways, we're keeping an open mind. We'll see how this staff goes. I did vote yes on the poll question because I think it speaks to cost. I am a little concerned because I think it speaks to the greater theme of cost cutting. And I do wonder whether ownership is going to provide all the tools that the Sedin twins and Ryan Johnson require for a proper rebuild. As we know, ownership has gone kicking and screaming into a rebuild, believing it's going to affect its revenues. And so if it's looking, and it has been this in the past, penny wise, pound foolish, I don't think that would be a good thing for the organization as it conducts this rebuild. So I voted yes. Am concerned a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping a full open mind on the gentleman hired in this staff.
Yeah, I guess if we're reminding ourselves, do I have a shred of concern? Yeah, I probably have a shred of concern. So by that technicality, I guess I have to vote yes. It's not going to keep me up late at night, though. And because the consequence ultimately, what's the consequence? 32nd overall, and you rehire people next summer, it's not a grave consequence. The only minorly permanent consequence would be, do the players develop at the rate that you think they should develop this year?
Well, and especially, you had young players regress last year.
Yeah.
You cannot have that again.
Yeah. So you do, and you should try to nip that in the bud. Again, firing an assistant coach should not be something that you stew over a long time. So I think these guys do have some responsibility, some pressure on them from the get-go. These young players look better, look more on track than they did from the outset last year.
Like Atu Ratu cannot afford another backsliding season, or he is not a part of your future plans. DPD cannot afford another backsliding season. Electromachy, I guess you can chalk up part of it to the injury or injuries that he suffered. If Mancini's going to be a player for you, you need to know that this year, right? In fact, you need to know that almost even sooner, because there's a waiver situation. He's still waiver exempt. Is he still waiver exempt? But anyways, I mean, it's push coming to shove time for Mancini as well, given his age at 24, going on 25. Actually, he'll play all this year at 24. So vote on the poll question. You can do so at the S&P X and YouTube channels. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery.
Mancini's still waiver exempt, by the way.
Okay. Dollar in, dollar out. Canucks rebuilding, but not trading their best asset, nor weaponizing cap space, nor taking advantage of their economic might, in part because they may not have economic might anymore. So in order to take on salary or even get the sweeteners that teams are reportedly willing to pay to take on salary and contracts they don't want anymore, the Canucks must trade out salaried veterans. And that well is really down to two at this point after the trading of Marcus Paterson last week. You've got Elias Pettersson, you got Jake DeBrusk, maybe Drew O'Connor, who's at $2.5 million with a 12-team no-trade list. But we bring this up because the Anaheim Ducks matched that Philadelphia offer sheet for Leo Carlsson late last week. It turns Leo Carlsson into the highest paid player in
By a wide margin.
hockey, and of course is the, as I see it being discussed in agent and player circles, the Kickstarter that NHL salaries needed to get more in line with their brethren in the other big sports who tend to get paid a very, very healthy percentage of salary caps. And so the Anaheim Ducks, who fended off a offer sheet for defenseman Pavel Mintyukov, and then went and matched the Leo Carlsson offer sheet. And then, of course, the Ducks have always been more of a budget team. They weren't even spending at the highest reaches of the salary cap when the salary cap was 8.5, 13, $15 million less than what it is now, with these significant jumps. The first one here this year, of course, we're anticipating more going forward. And so Ducks in a bit of a crunch. And this is where a rebuilding team would jump in, right? And say, we'll take that guy off your hands or that guy, depending on who they want to shed salary-wise. Maybe you get sweeteners with it, or maybe you just get a free player that you can go about and turn into an asset at this trade deadline or at some later point. Rick Dhaliwal joined Bob Stauffer's show in Edmonton and said the Ducks are going to have to add sweeteners, and that they've called the Canucks about winger Frank Vatrano. But again, money in, money out. Canucks budget is tight. So in order to make a Vatrano deal, to take on his ticket, you're going to have to move out salary. Now, they've moved out Nils Höglander. They moved out Marcus Paterson. They did take on Brendan Gallagher and, of course, Jamie Alexiak. But it may very well be coming down to, can you make a Jake DeBrusk trade? Can you make an Elias Pettersson trade before you can go about quote unquote weaponizing cap space.
Yeah. I mean,
A little disappointing.
it's not surprising.
She mentioned Paul Cotter as well, who was signed.
I wonder about a Minnesota trade too. Minnesota on the verge of signing Quinn Hughes, it sounds like, and they're saying
$17 million a year
minimum. Because remember, Kaprizov is at $17 million. That's a winger. Like, this is a trophy-winning defenseman. I'm guessing Quinn Hughes wants to be in above Kirill Kaprizov. So that's a team that's going to need some salary cap help in the not too distant future as well. Now, they don't need it necessarily for this year because Quinn Hughes has still got the 1 year left. But there are teams out there. There are opportunities out there for the Vancouver Canucks. I think still, like if you...
And we should just note, Blake, these situations, as we've talked about, are going to be fewer and further between as we go forward with the rising salary cap because teams are going to have cap space.
Yeah.
The reason that these scenarios have come up over the last, 6, 7, however many number of years is the cap's been pretty tight. It's been non-rising. Star players were getting their money. It left less for others on much smaller caps. Like going forward, there will be budget teams. So we're not necessarily going to know quite as readily, this team has a
They don't declare
salary
it.
crunch.
Yeah.
But, so long as most teams, and certainly most contenders and playoff teams, are willing to spend to the cap or close to it, the rebuilders are going to have less occasion to be able to take on some of this bad money and get rewarded for it.
The interesting thing, though, is, as you said, the star players always got paid fairly well here in this league. Not relative to left-handed pitchers in the major leagues or anything, but you know what I mean. The interesting thing is in this transition year or two here, the middle class will start to catch up a little bit. Not catch up, but they're going to start to get paid. Middle class players are going to see a big jump in their salaries too. And managers are going to have to figure out where that sweet spot is of how much they give to the middle class, saving room for $18 million Quinn Hughes defenseman.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the tricky thing. But in this calendar year, in this season, there may still be guys that are teams that are stuck in the middle there of I need to pay my guy, can't lose him, Quinn Hughes is an example, but there's others, and I've still got leftover cap issues. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I have a needle stuff, but you've got to be the team that people say around the league, wow, did they orchestrate that well? And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing for ownership to just put the clamp down and say dollar in, dollar out. But if the Twins and Ryan Johnston find a scenario where they're like, I know it means taking on a little extra dollar here, but this is a bounty that we cannot turn away
They've got to
from.
be able to make that case to ownership and convince them of it.
Yeah.
Mike Gillis and Lawrence Gilman have both told us the story of that one training camp where they had to go to ownership and say, look, we have some higher-priced NHL vets here. Matt Pettinger was one. Who simply got beat out in training camp by younger players on two-way contracts. We're looking for your blessing to be able to bury these one-way NHL contracts in the American Hockey League, which is going to make the cost of operating the AHL team more expensive, for the ability to play the likes of Jannik Hansen was one of the wingers who won a job that year. And the Aquilinis, to their infinite credit, said, absolutely, go at it. And for the most part, outside of that one COVID offseason where they said goodbye to Tyler Toffoli and Jacob Markstrom and some veteran players, the Aquilinis have always greenlit expenditures on the NHL roster, on the actual hockey product. Again, there have been moments where it's looked penny wise and
you have to believe if the Twins and Ryan Johnston said we can get a first-round pick if we do X, Y, and Z, but it'll cost us so many million. You have to believe they would still say yes.
I think Francesco follows and understands hockey enough to know those sorts of things. Well, speaking of first-round picks, Shane Wright was one of them, a 4th overall. In fact, many believed he would be the first overall pick.
There were moments where he was supposed to be.
Even right up, the hours leading before that draft when the Canadians were on the clock at first overall and wound up taking Juraj Slavkovsky, the big Slovak winger. Shane Wright, and this became public over the season in Seattle, wants a trade. His agent, Kurt Overhart, is working on a trade. This is a young right shot center iceman who can really skate and has excellent amateur pedigree. Had a very good season 2 years ago as well in the NHL before backsliding a little bit last year. He's available. Teams are talking to the Kraken. Canucks, one of them. Rick Dhaliwal reports the ask was very high from Seattle. A Tom Verlander or a Zeev Buium, one of the prize young defense prospects, or I guess NHLers, given that they both played a full season last year.
Yeah, that's the problem. Shane Wright's not a reclamation project just yet. Still a contributor, just below where people had projected him. So he still has trade value. The Kraken still want something for what Shane Wright currently is, never mind what he still could become. So that's the difficult thing here. You almost wish he had just strangely bottomed out last year and that maybe you could have stolen him. But it's not the case. Still
He's under contract, too, for less than $900,000.
Yeah.
So the price point absolutely fits before he's a restricted free agent next summer.
And nobody would blink an eye if he had a 55-point year at minimum this year. So never mind excellence. Like you get good production out of this player for $900K.
Yep.
Like there is value there. So that's the difficulty.
He's 22 years old, 6 foot, 192 pounds, right shot center, 4th overall pick.
Good skater.
In the 2022 draft. Very nice skater. Like, these are the sorts of players who should interest the Vancouver Canucks right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that file goes. Look, time is not on the Kraken's side there. I mean, they can say the player's under contract and we're under no rush. Fair enough. But a player doesn't want to be there as a declining asset. It's clear that he doesn't want to be there. It's also clear that their most recent experience with him was not as positive as the previous year. So, what are you going to do there? What does your coaching staff think of him? Because if you're going to saddle him on a 4th line or play him in low leverage situations, low minutes, you're not increasing his trade value.
I mean, I don't think either side would necessarily think of this right now because there's just no reason for the Canucks to think. Like, again, I'm not running them out of town here, folks. Marco Rossi for Shane Wright plus a pick.
Yeah. I mean, I still just wonder about Elias Paterson in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean,
they've been hunting stars. They can't get stars. Jason Robertson said no to them. They haven't yet had enough high picks or selected the right people when they had high picks to develop stars. I mean, I see them running commercials about how great the experience is at Climate Pledge for a Kraken game. And I sit there and I think to myself, what are you talking about? Okay, I guess there's some fun nights out. Yeah, sure. But you've won one playoff series. Yeah, you've won one playoff series in your history.
Mm-hmm.
You've missed the playoffs. You're somewhere between the mushy middle and the tier of the worst teams that just need a lot of lottery luck to move on up. You've got $21 million plus in cap space without any RFAs of consequence here, Blake. So that's the one that I continue to watch. And as you talked about recently, okay, Elias has full trade protection. Last indication at the end of the season, didn't want to waive it, wants to be part of the solution here. It's a couple hours down the road. It's not a huge life or lifestyle change.
No.
We'll see where that goes. Congratulations to Philip Hronek, his bride, his family. Got married over the course of the weekend. I'm not sure how many Canucks teammates were there. I didn't go pausing the video and like zooming in or anything like that, but I do believe Quinn Hughes was there. I believe I caught a little bit of the former Canucks captain, his former defense partner there. We got further clarity, and look, everything we had heard from Philip Hronek and his agent, Alan Walsh, who was quite active on social media, is that he doesn't want to trade. Family likes it here. He wants to be part of mentoring young players during a rebuild. And Ryan Johnson echoed that late last week. Let's read what Mr. Johnson had to say. Phil has been really adamant that he wants to be a part of the solution. Nobody shuts off their phone and doesn't listen on anybody's ideas or what other teams want. But at the end of the day, I've got to think about how it affects the group here. Phil really wants to help the young players. He's already reached out to some of the newly drafted players to welcome them. Phil maybe doesn't want to be the center of attention as far as the media and those types of things, but he very much is operating like somebody that really wants to help this group moving forward. There's a lot of value in him, not just as a player, but as a person. That's how we've gotten to where we are. And hey, great on Philip Hronek. I mean, that I think speaks terrifically about his character, that he wants to be a leader. I mean, remember the last management group was sort of grooming him to be the captain. I can understand if that would be appealing to him and if he wants to continue that work even with a new management group. I also understand, I see what Canucks fans say just about every day, like that's our best trade ship. Look at this red-hot scorching trade market and what a Philip Hronek under contract at value would fetch on the open market, because we're talking about a guy who's making $7.25 million through the next 6 seasons, which is going to increasingly look like a steal if Philip Hronek continues his magnificent level of play.
Yeah, and so to pick up on that, if it's going to be increasingly better value, then you'd think his value on the trade market should probably not go anywhere. I think it's also safe to say that of all the current Canucks, particularly on the blue line, that you need to cultivate the most, it's Zibulium, right? Like Zibulium is the potential star that you have on the blue line. The other guys, Verlander, DPD, Mancini, all like really nice players. You've got hopes for them. You can see roles for them on the playoff team to come. But the one star potential is Zibulium. And what do you owe Zibulium? You owe him somebody that he can play with, that can bring him along and can be a safety net. Like Philip Hronek is the ultimate two-way guy. He can get you 45 points, 50 points. He can defend pretty well.
He's a darn good player.
And he holds on to the puck, and he allows you to maintain possession, which is critical to playing with a guy like Zibulium. So again, do you have to alter how you think about Philip Hronek as more of a critical piece to Zibulium's development? And
Yep, I think so.
And then
You have no choice.
and then parallel to that is he's still going to be valuable a year from now. He's still going to be valuable 2 years from now.
Like if he has told them, I am not green lighting a trade to anywhere right now, then forget about it. It's out of your hands. You can't control it. There will come a day when the competitive spirit of Philip Hronek says, okay, I only have so many years left of my career.
Yeah.
I have not contested the Stanley Cup playoffs very often. In fact, his year with 2 years ago was the only time.
I think so, yes.
He can do. I mean, Detroit's been horrible from whence he came. So you revisit it when Philip Hronek and his representative open that door for you. Right now, it's a non-file for Ryan Johnson. Even if teams call and say, we will give you sun, moon, and stars for Philip Hronek, it's a non-file. Nothing you can do with that. It's the hand you were dealt. It's how you play the hand. And then lastly, and shame on me because this escaped me last week when we were talking about the Marcus Paterson deal, and that way, way off in the distance, if you can squint, you can barely see it, 2030 first rounder, top 10 protected, which means it could be a 2031 first rounder. Let's bring this tweet up, Mike. This is from a member of Canucks Twitter, Jim Leahy, HNIC. Just realized the deal the Canucks signed Miller to and its ability to be effective at 36 will directly influence how good of a pick they get. Who they get for Marcus Paterson. Who they landed when he was traded. Full circle. That's right. JT Miller's deal, signed by the Vancouver Canucks, expires in 29-30, and the Canucks hold the Rangers pick that year. So it is somewhat subject to the level of performance of a 36-year-old JT Miller 4 years down the block.
So you can cheer on JT Miller to have them finish
11th. That's what you're hoping
11th
for.
worst. 11th worst.
Well, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you want the 11th pick.
Yeah. So
That is maximizing the pick. Or
if you've got ultimate patience, you go on and sewer them, JT. And you sewer them so badly, they're wrecked for years to come, and
That's
they are
right.
terrible
Now
in
you're
20, 30, 31.
hey, if anybody can sewer a room, it's...
Just saying.
So there you go. I had not put that together last week when we were discussing the trade.
Super chat from Basketball Phil. Let's get to that.
Canucks Twitter doesn't miss much.
Speaking of Canucks Twitter, Basketball Phil's reluctantly a member. He'd rather it be
Basketball Twitter, but
Grizzlies Twitter.
Yeah.
But Basketball Phil, Shane Wright is the worst Seattle draft pick since Dan McGuire.
Oh boy, going way back. Mark's
Hard
brother,
pass.
huge big quarterback out of San Diego State.
Thank you for your donation there.
Wasn't
Partial
worse than Rick
proceeds.
Meyer, Phil. Was a bad draft pick too.
Partial proceeds to BC Mental Health Foundation. Thank you,
Yeah.
Phil.
What's up with Yellow Dog? We're getting a delivery this week. I'm very excited.
We are.
Yes, Dan stopping by.
A summer
Our man, Dan.
delivery cannot wait. Well, Yellow Dog Spirits is releasing its first ever super tall can. Introducing the Turbo Ombre Lime Margarita, bursting with bright lime, smooth tequila flavor, and ready to tag along on every summer adventure. It's the biggest personality they've ever put in a can. It's big enough to share, or maybe it's going to be an afternoon for you. Yellow Dog Spirits in the Turbo Ombre Lime Margarita in the super tall.
As mentioned, when last we joined you, we were working off the grim news from Rogers Communications, Inc. of shuttered radio stations, 230 job losses across the country. Radio stations closing in our city, Calgary, Halifax, Kitchener. It did go deeper. We're going to get to that in a second. First, the Vancouver Giants and BC Lions put out statements late last week about the closing of 650. Of course, the Giants were heard on those airwaves. I don't believe Lions were never on 650.
I don't think so. Nope.
Went from the TSN 1040 Bell airwaves to the CKNW.
Well, the Dos I Do It.
Chorus.
It was Black Tower, then it
That's
went
right.
to 1040 and then back.
And then back. So good on the Lions for recognizing that. I saw Jordan Armstrong of Global had a story on their news hour about the end of the all news and all sports formats in British Columbia. Because, of course, News 1130 was the last rapid fire news every 15 minutes, traffic on the ones like NW is more of the long form talk station.
What's shocking to me about that is that News 1130's format is way more in step with how our brains work now with quick accumulation and short attention span. I cannot believe.
But of course, when
that was amongst the first
of course,
to go.
Blake, when this format started, though, it was the only place you could get it, or certainly the only place you could get it in your car.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a different world thanks to technology. We talked about it all last week. In a lot of cases, this should be a story, and I sure hope it's a story about replatforming as opposed to simply loss of coverage for our market, shrinking of the industry in Vancouver and British Columbia. I already see there's a grassroots movement afoot. We had talked about the Czech model out of Victoria. A employee-owned and operated television station. Rick and Donnie are over there. Ryan are over there. I'm not necessarily sure that model is going to work on terrestrial radio, but I think it's got a fighting chance of working on digital and streaming platforms. There was this as well. It went beyond just the stations closing, but AJ Cruz, Myra Lawrence, Ocean 98.5 in Victoria were amongst the job cuts of Rogers across the country last week. So this went beyond the stations that were shuttered, deeper into BC's media landscape. Morning shows, especially radio morning shows, a big part of people's day, as we talked about last week. can remember our doomsday, and certainly feel for everybody who last week had something that was part of their daily routine that metered out the day for them suddenly gone. You had asked me on Wednesday what I listened to coming into work on Wednesday, and I said, well, I was in an Uber because we left the car here after
Extenuating circumstances.
FIFA celebrations. Yeah, I was not right to drive last Tuesday. But over the course of the weekend, found myself driving around.
And just,
And just instinctively reached to put on 650. Oh, yeah, it's not there. Early days, I find myself listening a little bit more to NW, but again, you and I both talked about it. The technology is so facile now for podcasts in the car. Like when Blake and I started this gambit, we had to educate people about how to get the podcast, our pod, in the car. At the time,
CarPlay wasn't as
only so many people
prevalent.
had CarPlay, Apple CarPlay in their vehicles. Some cases it required cords, Blake. Like we did an educational campaign on this, for heaven's sake. Now, even your older so-and-so who's not great with technology can get this done.
They probably had somebody set up the CarPlay for them.
It may well have taken some assistance, but it should be
now
easy
they're good
peasy.
to go. Yes.
Yeah. Albeit my new phone seems to have some connectivity issues in the car. We'll get there. Now, we haven't heard anything from the Canucks yet with regards to the radio rights, or I see some people were criticizing them for no statement yet on 650. I think there's good reason for that. A smart person that Blake and I know who's got intimate knowledge of broadcast deals between sports clubs and local media mentioned to us that he would bet the contract language specified that Canucks games have to be on Rogers Sportsnet AM 650. And that it's not just as simple as saying, oh, we've shuttered that station, we're going to put your games on Jack, or we're going to put them on KISS, one of the FM stations. That there may very well now be an opportunity for the Canucks to say to Rogers, you've defaulted on the contract here. It's no longer in place. It's null and void. And we're taking our audio rights, and I say audio rights specifically, elsewhere. Now, of course, if the Canucks void the deal, I mean, who's putting them on the air and what kind of leverage do they have in shopping the rights? Like, this isn't 1988 anymore where you'd have every radio station in the market clamoring to get this property. If they say, okay, we're done, Rogers, we're going to take them to CKNW. First thing NW says is, well, you got no options.
Yeah.
It's not like we're paying.
I think NW would listen, but, you know, it's
from a heritage legacy point of view.
Yeah, and just,
I think it'd be a PR win for them.
Yeah.
But again, as we discussed at length last week, very few people now listen to games on radio. Every game is televised. We live in a screen culture. Unless you're driving and the driver with both eyes on the road, you
have to be driving alone, because you're right. If you're driving with anybody else who is also a hockey fan, they're probably got it on
probably have it
and
on
you're
their
just
phone.
listening
Yeah,
along
exactly.
to the TV broadcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty niche.
I heard a stat about like 2,000 people listening to games now. Like that's.
I think the Canucks could argue we would probably get more carryover audience from a CKNW listener into a hockey game than we would from a KISS or Jack FM listener.
I would think so. To the extent lead-ins still matter, Blake. Like, they used to matter a lot. Like, I can remember when Bro Jake came over to our station, and one of the things he said to me was, Matty, we're going to give you a great lead-in, because we were the next show up in middays. But I'm just, the media world changes at breakneck speed. And the radio business, I was talking to someone yesterday in Montreal who did radio, had big offers to stay in radio, and just looked around and said, I do not like the foreseeable future in this medium. I'm moving on. I get it. Congratulations to Macklin Celebrini of Vancouver, North Vancouver. He was named the IIHF Male Player of the Year yesterday for his efforts at the Olympic Games. He is not an Olympic champion or a gold medalist, sadly.
Well, and the World Hockey Championships.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, of course, he was extraordinary in that Milan tournament.
And then went on to captain Canada at the World. So it was a double dip, and that's what goes in. They had 2 tournaments to look at for this award, and they thought he covered all the bases on both tournaments. He's the guy.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember we had the debate if he was too young? Oh, does he belong at the on the senior men's team? And Macklin was like, okay. We got people doubting me? All right, I'll show you. He was exceptional.
I remember feeling.
Alas Canada comes out of the World Championships without a medal.
No, totally.
Lose to Norway of all teams in the bronze medal game, lose to Finland in the semis. But the best news here is Macklin is just getting his IIHF career going. And really, if you're a Canucks fan, until that day where he puts on the hometown sweater, you are a fan of Macklin Celebrini at the IIHF level. So good on him. Also heard he was in town golfing last week. I hear he hits the ball a mile.
Oh, yeah. He was on the ice with the Bedard injury, so he's been in town for a bit.
And this story happened, too, since we last joined you. There was a commemoration of the life and times of Ernie Punch McLean, who we lost in May. Of course, the legendary hockey coach, the legendary junior hockey coach with the New West Bruins, twice a Memorial Cup champion, an absolute fixture of hockey in this province at Rogers Arena. There often. Joey Kenward tweeting from there about a sad farewell to a legend, saying that many former NHL and WHL players, executives, plus hundreds of fans from all generations hit up Ernie's haunt, the Queen's Park Arena in New West, to pay tribute to him. Needless to say, the testaments to Punch's life and times in the game. Not to mention just an incredible life lived. The guy survived plane crashes. There was that story all those years ago where he was lost up in the bush, found his way out into safety.
I said this when he passed, Matt. There used to be a thing, folks, that the CBC actually produced movies, probably 4 per year, that were marketed bigly. Like, it was a big, like
they did one on Don Cherry. I can remember the Don Cherry one.
Usually Canadiana sort of stories. Butterbox Babies, one of them I remember back in the day. Anyhow,
you remember the one on Conrad Black?
Yes. Mm-hmm. This should be one of those.
Oh, no question. No question.
It's a heck of a life lived.
Yeah. Lost him in May.
Plus
at age 93.
Plus the period piece element of it, all of the suits that he would be wearing in the early 1980s. People get a kick out of it.
Stan Smeal and some legendary players at this time with New West. So once again, our condolences to the friends and family of Punch. He will be dearly missed, but I was glad to see that there was a memorial at the Queen's Park Arena. Just absolutely fitting. Let's get to our menu today, brought to you, as always, by our friends at Greta. It's a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You are mere steps from the arena or the stadium. If you're planning a private party, you do want to check out Greta. Why? They have a private area at the back of the bar. It's up on a riser. You've got your own full-service bar available to you right there, so you won't wait long for a drink. It's surrounded by screens. And then there's the arcade with a game for everybody. Your guests will absolutely have a blast. Maybe they're living their youth now. Maybe they will relive their youth with some of the vintage games at this arcade, plus a delicious menu of street food to book your event. Or for more information, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We got Patrick Johnston coming up from the province and Postmedia. He wrote a tough column on the closure of 650 and News 1130. late last week, including calling up the Competition Bureau and saying, guys, what's up? What's with the concentration of media in the hands of one company or a few companies who seemingly are cutting in all markets not named Toronto? So we'll talk to Patrick about that. We'll talk to Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, about the new coaching staff for Manny Malhotra, Philip Hronek staying put, Shane Wright, and Canucks off-season to come. Later in the show, we'll talk Whitecaps, soccer, and World Cup. Down to the nitty-gritty in the World Cup with, just the four heavyweights, right? Caps are back at it tonight in defense of their 4 straight Canadian soccer championships. We'll talk some golf. Look forward to the Open Championship this week. It was a fun weekend for Canadian golfers. Didn't win, but came real close. Kept us on our toes. Lots of baseball as they hit the All-Star break. Jays are in last place. M's thinking big moves. Some local British Columbians drafted into the bigs, or at least the minors, this weekend with the Major League Baseball first-year player draft. So we'll get into all those stories. BC Lions have a new special teams coordinator. Seahawks have a new owner.
Is Vladimir Guerrero in the singles derby this year?
I don't know. He hit a home run on the weekend.
He did. Good for him. Got that little bitty ball over that wall.
Well, it's the hardest thing to do in all sports, but I hear what you're saying. Okay, time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I have no earthly idea what I picked last Wednesday. I think I picked England, but
yeah, that was like a lifetime ago.
There's France, and then there's everybody else, if you ask me. I like the French to beat the Spaniards and to do it in full time, in regulation. France to win in 90, which is plus 135. I'll take that. I was surprised to see them plus 135. I thought they'd be closer to even money to win in 90.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. I'm going football of the American variety. Albeit,
are we getting a Super Bowl pick
albeit
here?
the Canadian variety.
Oh, 3-down game.
Yeah,
the 12-man game.
And it's early, but the Lions. I only bring it up because the money line's pretty good for the Lions right now. They've got momentum on their side with their first win under their belt, plus 145 for the Lions taking on the Elks. I know the Elks got off to a nice start, but you have to believe that the Elks are poised to go worst to first to give them a ton of respect.
Mm-hmm.
So Lions plus 145, I'll take it right now.
Worst thing about hockey season is that at some point every year it ends. There's a lot of time between now and the first puck drop of next season, and it feels like an eternity if you're accustomed to watching nightly games. The good news, Bet365 still has plenty of games, just none that require skates. At Bet365 Casino, you can choose between hundreds of slots, live tables, your favorite games, or at least your second favorite games. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston, next. Price from the historic Wall Center. We now welcome in columnist with the Province Vancouver Sun Postmedia, Mr. Patrick Johnston. His column from last week, late last week, Sportsnet 650's demise reminds us that lack of competition is bad for Canadians. He reached out to the Competition Bureau after Rogers announces the closure of its sale of the rest of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment for $4 billion, and one day later axes radio stations in the hinterland, of course, not in Toronto. And honestly, though he was later to our industry, I'm not sure anybody cares about it more or the people within it than you, Peach. So good on you for writing the column. For those who missed it, what's the argument?
Well, listen, there are business issues, and sure, you can talk all you want about radio and the change in technology and all that. The fundamental truth is, beyond that, as our pal Justin McElroy pointed out, that when he and I started in this business, I mean, he and I basically tracked together 14 years ago. If you look at Vancouver, we had, the separate Sun and Province newsrooms. We had 1040, we had News 1130, we didn't have Sportsnet 650, but we had Global and CKNW being separate. We had the Georgia Straight, we had the Vancouver Courier. I mean, I know the Georgia Straight still exists in some form, but like we had all these things. We had Metro, we had 24 Hours. Like we had a whole slew of information sources. And again, technology's changed and people get their stuff in different ways now versus then. But the overall truth is that those were all people who were professionals, who had sort of a code of ethics, who had a process on what we need to know and what we deserve to know, and what the politicians and the corporate leaders and all that don't want you to know. Right. And fundamentally, that made our society better and better educated and better informed. And now we're in a world where not only does Facebook not want to have us share news links at all, but Google's making it very hard to get news punching through, even though, fairness, Google is paying into the Digital Innovation Fund and is in theory paying for jobs. The overall issue is that Canadians need to know what's going on around them. A lot of it has been sort of invisible, and now it's stark and clear that there just is no competition. That when you have, as an easy example for sports fans, every single major team in Toronto owned by one company, and they own one of the major sports networks who happen to own the rights to the majority of those games. That's not good. That is not good for Canadians. Canadians deserve better. We should have more variety. It's time for regulators to step in and say, no, this is too much. I'm sorry, guys. Good for you for being able to buy everything, but that's not how this works.
It's a little dystopic, isn't it? Like this is like it does
literally shit we put in movies, right?
Yeah,
like this is stuff you put in movies, right? This is Tomorrow Never Dies. If you want a cheesy example, right? This is James Bond.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Villain. Oh, okay, that one. I was thinking Edge of Tomorrow.
The whole point is he's manufacturing his own news and all this stuff, right? Yes. It's a very cheesy, simplistic version of, but like. That's where we're at. And like you're dealing with corporate control. And listen, we all try our best, right, to do in report independent and all that kind of thing. But fundamentally, in the end, there are always pressures, right? And it makes it harder and harder. And so, listen, I work for a company that obviously owns a lot of newspapers, but there's still a lot of different newspapers in this country. There aren't as many as there should be, right? And we are in a chase against each other for the same stories a lot of the time. And that's good. And that's good for readers. Now, listen, readers, as I said, have had their habits changed, whether it's conscious or not. And that's a challenge that we face. But as a society, we need variety. We need people chasing stuff, not just as competition, but the fact is people are looking under every corner of the tent, looking for the loose change.
How is it a good thing that Canada's third largest city is losing 2 locally focused radio stations because of the financial expectations of Bay Street? What matters more, local communities or centralized power? You say you put those questions to the Competition Bureau, and you heard back.
Yes.
What did you hear back?
Listen, they gave a long answer which explained what they do. And a certain level, fair enough. And they said, listen, we can't say whether we're looking into this or not because of privacy. And I'm like, that's great. This is a public entity. This is a public interest. They did make the point
they say their mandate is to do things, conduct its work in private. Yeah.
Anyway, their point was basically, if we find there's an issue that we think needs to be flagged and reviewed, it goes to then a tribunal who then make a decision. So there is a process that is in theory there, but if nothing happens, and they've already approved, listen, you go back 12 years, or is it 14 years? 2012, when they first let, I've lost track on timing, 4 years ago, when they first let Bell sell its stake to Rogers, putting Rogers in majority control of MLSE. Mm-hmm. They didn't do anything then. And you find yourself going, why not?
Patrick, they didn't do anything when they got together to buy the sports teams. Then they didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was 14. And then they didn't do anything again when Rogers said, we're going to buy out the rest of the Bell MLSE side of things. With the proviso, they were going to buy out Tannenbaum's share as well.
Yeah. And the sort of idea that that's, you read Tony Stafari's statement on it all on the purchase last week. And the last item was, he said, oh, well, let us invest more in blah, blah, blah. The last point, in return results to shareholders. And that's it. That's entirely it. Oh, there we go. Brilliant.
Oh, look
That,
at
that is Elliot Carver, the villain from Tomorrow Never Dies. He knows tomorrow's
Jonathan
news
Pryce.
today, Mr. Bonds. The great Jonathan Pryce. You're quite right.
Let me ask you this. People have wondered, why somebody doesn't just develop an independent media source. Well,
and there's some rumblings about that.
Like a radio station's tough though. It's easy to
radio
shoot.
station is very tough.
It's easy to shoot down why somebody doesn't open up an independent, either News 1130 or new sports radio station, because the radio station and the radio technology, it's easy to poke holes on why you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But how about just independent media? Is there room for somebody to open up something that serves the local community?
Listen, and this was a reaction I had when people said, "Well, what are we going to listen?" I'm like, "Well, what are we doing right here?" Like, there's still lots. The point is, yes, there are still lots of local things, but we now are one down, and the direct reason is because an operator from Toronto decided they didn't want to run this or try anything different. And the bigger picture, and this is an important thing to understand. Like, listen, again, technology's changed how we deliver stuff, but the interest remains. But, as someone pointed out to me, and I mentioned in the story, in 2009, give or take, there was $125 million in radio ad sales, right? Last year, it's down to 50. $75 million went somewhere else. And you know where it went? It went south of the border. And that is something that government needs to think long and hard about, because there is money in this business. You guys are still on the air in quotes, because the advertising market finally came to where podcasts were and came to understand what they can do, right? And that's good. And you guys are keeping it going because of that. But there's a lot of money sitting out there that just flows south because Google and Facebook took advantage of the scene and no one understood what was going on.
You say that, and yet I'm still a little bit struck that in some quarters, especially with advertising agencies, they're not quite as up to speed on digital and streaming media as I thought they might have been here in 2026. I think it was easier just to cut deals with conventional media companies that they had known for a long time. And of course, in some cases, you had clients who were interested in being on a whole suite of mediums that places like Bell and Rogers could provide, right? When you're a television, radio, websites and things of that order. This is now feeding into Western alienation. We read the statement from Michelle Rempel-Garner last week, the MP from Calgary Nose Hill, who's conservative and in opposition. So you anticipate that it would be a fiery statement. But she brought up an unassailable point, and that is that François-Philippe Champagne, who's now the Minister of Finance and the number 2 in the government, when approving the Rogers-Shaw merger several years ago, said they would, quote, be watching Rogers like a hawk with regards to Canadian jobs and the Canadian economy. Do you think these sorts of moves could be trouble for Carney and the sitting Liberals, who do have a majority at this point federally, given that they seem to be feeding into Western grievance? Well, even regional grievance beyond Western grievance, right? Like that if you're not in Toronto, you don't matter according to the bigger companies in Canada.
I think in the end, like, all the little bits do matter, sure, right? Like, people are going to feel frustrated. I'm not sure people are as conscious, because it's a slow drip thing. Like, it's like climate change, right? Like, it's the toad in the boiling water, right? Like, they don't notice until it's a problem, and then they don't know what happened. So Garner's point was solid. Like, listen, you guys said you were going to keep an eye on them, and here they are carrying on. And this is, pro-business, I guess. But, like, in the end, what are we here for? What is this country going to be? And what is this country going to be? Where do we want it to go? Is it just simply going to be how far can people write off whatever they want to write off? And the cost is a less educated, a less knowledgeable, a less cohesive Canada, right? Like, the argument in watching all this is to recognize the fact that This is not a spillover, and this, by the way, kind of spills into our longstanding Whitecaps conversation. That there forever has been no quote national advertising scene, because all you need to do is you sell into Toronto and it just spills out elsewhere. But that mentality is not a good one, because the rest of the country is not Toronto. We do things differently. We think differently. We behave differently. We are all Canadians. We all have different views on what Canada is, but we are fundamentally very united in our sense of we like being kind to each other and not being American and getting along and not being pissed off all the time. And yet now we're in a world where there are actors out there trying to do that to us all the time. And that's why
they're at the corporate laziness of just going to Toronto and forgetting the rest. And that's what I don't think it's any more cynical than that. I think it's just laziness.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I mean. Canada is something to be fought for, right? And that is Rempel's point. It's like, listen, you can't just let one guy do whatever he wants. Edward Rogers doesn't care about any of us. He just cares.
Right. He's not elected. He didn't run for office. Elected. Yeah.
And Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk,
sure as hell aren't elected.
Valley guys, none of those guys care about us. They just want to build up their bank account, and that is exactly the issue. And that's why Rempel was spot on to say, "What are we doing here?"
Despite all the billions already in that bank account,
how rich does Edward Rogers need to be?
Well, and this is why. And think of how far the thinking has changed. And granted, John Shannon goes back nearly 40 years in terms of when he was running Hockey Night in Canada. But when we had John on the show last week, he talked about when you ran Hockey Night in Canada, there was a duty of care that went even beyond the major markets, the NHL markets, into small town Canada. And some of that is still reflected to this day, or was still reflected to this day with Ron McLean and his sort of encyclopedic knowledge of Canada. I realize it's a different media environment. I realize media fragmentation has been going on for decades now, and it is exceedingly difficult to sort of have that coast-to-coast campfire. But that's what Hockey Night was at one point. Everybody from St. John's to Tofino felt more Canadian because of it, and losing these sorts of campfires with people who have shown they're not going to bring the duty of care to go coast to coast, let alone to the other big markets, let alone to small town Canada. It's got more exacerbated, and I mean that's why I ask the question, because in terms of the laziness, they can sit around, do the metrics, and say, oh, well, like 1 every 6, 1 every 7 Canadians live in the GTA. So let's just focus our efforts there.
Yeah, and I think it leads to rot, right? Like there's a dulling of the overall discussion, right? The fewer outlets there are, the fewer sort of trained people there are, the fewer big thinkers there are. Listen, I found myself reading about Neil McRae for some reason, and I don't remember why. But you think about that kind of guy, right? Like, love him or hate him, those guys drove discussion, right? And there were a lot of them, and we just don't have those kinds of people anymore, partly because, again, technology, but partly because of how this all works. You could easily, I mean, I was talking to someone the other day about where they see my, showing up with you guys. They see me on social media, right? Like the way you guys have figured this out is very professional, and this is what Canada needs more of. And when you simply let Rogers do whatever it wants and cut back. I mean, Rogers 650 hadn't been on YouTube in 2 years. Why? I mean, that makes no sense. If you're actually trying to build a business and get people in front, get your voice in front of people, like, what are you doing? Like,
because they were for sure.
No, I know somebody mentioned that to me last week, and I'm like, I don't know why you would have given up that distribution channel. Like, it's kind of kind of indispensable in today's world, especially if you want the young people. Yeah. Because the young people aren't turning on the AM dial. I promise you that.
They can't find it.
Many cars don't have
it.
Know what it is. Exactly. Okay. Should we move on? Do you have anything else?
Did you hear we got a mumbled F-bomb out of him like 2 answers ago? People can scrub back on your YouTube. It was a mumbled F-bomb. That's how passionate we got PJ there. He knows it. See, look at that. Oh, look, he knows he did it.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, he cares deeply about this industry and the people in it. And I'm glad we have.
Yeah.
We not only want him on that wall, we need you on that wall, Patrick Johnston. So keep standing your posts there for the Sun Province and Postmedia. What do you make of this new Canucks coaching staff under Manny Malhotra?
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm the first person to make the point, but it's sort of more of the same, which is let's see how we can sort of keep things narrow, right? Is that the way to put it? Congratulations to Jason Crow. Listen, Jason Crow probably going to be a good coach. I mean, he's been around, good guy, good worker. Manny gets his guy. They bring a guy from the outside. Great. You still need an atmosphere coaching staff, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought JPat made a really good point on the weekend. Just the fact that this is, okay, you've lost Zedines, now you lost Krogh. Those guys were kind of important. Listen, you're going to find people. There's time left, but like it just. And listen, a rebuild is a slow, methodical, and careful process. But if the point is to teach these young guys and maximize their growth curve, you want lots of coaches around. And Mike Komisarek, I had a great chat with Mike Komisarek at development camp. Mike Komisarek and Michael Samuelson, I think, have, from what I can tell, done a pretty great job connecting with these players and helping them get ready to become professionals. I jokingly said to Komisarek, I said, listen, it's almost like you're a residential advisor here. You got all these guys at BU and at college in general, and like that's because that's the pathway. And he laughed and he said, yeah, like those guys are doing good work. And listen, if Alex Edler has a full-on job, and it sure sounds like it is, but it hasn't been announced. If Alex Edler has a full-on job, that's great, good for him. But like, also, he's never done this before.
There's two different thoughts. There's two different thoughts, and they almost sound like they are counter intuitive here. That you're a young team that won't win a lot, they don't need the high-end coach. But you're a young team that doesn't know how to win. So you should probably bring in coaches that can teach them how to one day do that and to develop. And so, like bringing in coaches that are going to help them develop is going to be critical.
Hockey has this issue of not always valuing people's experience, like actually spending time learning how to do the job, right? This is the ongoing argument in American soccer. Should we be spending money on the youth coaches or on the senior team coach? And of course, all the things that come with that. But it's the same thing, right? Like this is an organization that right now should be looking at how do we make sure that our young players get everything they need so that at the very least we can say we did everything we could to make sure that these guys are ready to go and that every one of these ones has the best chance possible to turn into an NHLer. And obviously, like I said, there's still a couple months left in summer, and we'll see how things play out. But sooner than later, it will be August, and then sooner or later will be September. And, you want to have planning, and we know how much coaches like to plan. And Manny surely is planning right now. He's got his staff, and that's good. But it's forever with this organization. The proof forever will be in the pudding, and we continue to wait to see what the pudding looks like. Right?
Look, I can understand hiring people you're familiar with because I would probably do the same if in their shoes or skates.
Yeah.
I get that. I do wonder whether some of that is economically forced on them with the new cash crunch that's going on at Rogers Arena. I do think it's going to be a multi-year project, so I'm trying to keep my patience pants on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to keep my pants on, period, but especially the patient pants. And the other thing I'll say is I just hope that the Twins and Ryan Johnson aren't resolute in the opinion that all the solutions are in-house or people they know. It's been one of the worst. It's been one of the worst run franchises in major professional sports for more than a decade. I assure you, there are more answers outside of your organization than there are inside.
These guys are too smart to think that.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I think so, but loyalty's a strange thing in the NHL, as Peach pointed out.
It is. And my impression, I would say, in my conversations with Ryan Johnson over the years, and he's a guy I've been talking to for a long time because he's been with this organization for a long time. He knows who's
and he's
out
been
there.
Available too, Peach. Like he's been happy to have the conversation over the years.
Yeah, and he knows who's out there. Right, like he's very aware of the industry and what's available and what is and what isn't. Because certainly I know there were frustrations. He would never say it, but you could tell there were frustrations under a previous regime over how, say, Utica was handled.
All right.
Yeah, so he knows what is and isn't. So,
We're going to say goodbye to you here, but just take one more look at your future boss here.
Yeah,
there he
there we
is, Elliot Carver. Tomorrow never
There he
dies.
is.
Excellent. He's
Imagine.
the sort of guy who puts the fingers together like Mr. Burns as he connives. Excellence. He'll
I
know
never
the
looked
news
up-
before you do.
Was it an intentional sort of shot? I mean, had Steve Jobs, I guess he hadn't really gone to the black turtleneck yet, had he? Steve almost dressed it like him, like Elliot Carver. Anyway.
I think you
this is
just
all
default to it. Once
funny.
you become an evil mastermind, I think you default to the all black.
He had to be in black. He's a Bond villain. He was going to wear black.
Yeah.
Whether it was turtleneck, V-neck, didn't really matter. Bond villain.
Well, shout out to Mike for finding that. Well done, Michael.
Hey, you're our 00. Thank you for this.
Yes.
All right.
Take care, guys.
We'll see you next week in pristine order.
Or is he Money Penny?
Secure some price from the historic Wall Center, and welcome to the new Nation gear. We've teamed up with Levelwear. We've told you about Levelwear to bring you the next era of Nation apparel, starting with the off-season social club collection. This is gear built for everything that happens between the games: golf rounds, patio hangs, weekend trips, whatever else brings premium, versatile, and made for fans who know being a sports fan isn't just a season, it is a lifestyle. The off-season social club coming soon. Be first to join. Like, follow, subscribe at the newsletter nationgear.ca as we welcome in our Canucks reporter and the host of Rink-Wide Vancouver, Mr. Jeff Paterson. We finally have a coaching staff here, Jeff, plus we have more clarity on the off-season ahead. How are you?
Doing all right.
Okay, well, let's start with the coaching staff. Second straight offseason, they've hired an inexperienced coaching staff. In this case, outside of the head coach, nobody appears to have NHL bench experience. Does the inexperience concern you?
I was always of the idea that it made perfect sense to surround Manny Malhotra with a coach that had some NHL head coaching experience, and we see that through the league. And I guess I felt pretty strongly about that up until the hiring the other day and the hirings. And then I got around to thinking that with where the Canucks are in their competitive arc, guys, I can't imagine that there will be a single in-game decision this year, a single game state, conundrum for Manny Malhotra that he would require the steadying presence of an experienced hand on the bench as well. There will be no stakes to the Vancouver Canucks, like a coach's challenge in a third period somewhere along the line. If it doesn't go his way, it doesn't go his way. And I think, there'll be no issues with any of that. So, I think people are right to look at this and think, all right, cost cutting. Is this just as simple as another indication that maybe the purse strings are being tightened at Rogers Arena? And I know Ryan Johnson last week again said, no, he's got the budget to do whatever he wants. But one thing to say it, I think it is fair to judge the organization on its actions. And with the lack of experience, I think probably comes, the pay grade that sort of falls in line with that as well. So it's not nothing. But my sense here is that they're looking to bring in a coaching staff that can grow with a young team that is 32nd in the National Hockey League. And, it's not about wins and losses. It is going to be all about player development. And so on that front, you've got Manny Malhotra and Jordan Smith, who was his right-hand man down in Abbotsford. They've worked with a bunch of players. They've won a Calder Cup with a bunch of these guys. There is some familiarity there. Jason Krogh moves from skills coach into an assistant coaching bench role, I think, although the roles haven't been fully defined. But whatever the case, it's a promotion to an assistant coaching job. But he's been around this group. He's familiar with the players and has spent a lot of one-on-one time working with them. And then they went out and they bring in Ryan Mongenel, who, the more I look and read about him, the guy's 50 years old. Like, this isn't like they're going with a 30-year-old who is just getting his feet wet in hockey. This guy's been a head coach at the ECHL level, the American Hockey League level, has had some success. He was the AHL Coach of the Year. For whatever reason, his team didn't have a lot of playoff success, but this really does feel like the Vancouver Canucks are going with this approach of trying to carry over the summer of good vibes. We know that they've done the overhaul in the locker room and addressed, they hope, some of the issues there. And I think they're trying to find a coaching staff that can come in at the ground floor and work with these guys. And if that's the intention, then I'm going to let them have their opportunity and we'll see what happens. And if it doesn't work, guess what? In a couple of years, they can do an overhaul and find some different bodies and some different voices.
Yes, yeah. It's tough to get outraged for an assistant coaching staff, but it is curious because you're right. If you're going to go with the inexperienced, cheaper guys, you would have thought there'd be some 37-year-olds into this group. But, Krog, blink, and he's 50 right now, too.
What?
Yes.
Jason Krog is 50? Oh, my God.
So, this they have not brought in the green guys that you can grow with over the next 5 years. These are all guys in the middle of their quote-unquote coaching career. It's a little curious, but again, I'm going to lower my outrage here because it's an assistant coaching staff, the easiest part of your entire organization to turn over.
Right, and I think there's a couple things that jump to mind here. One is, and again, Ryan Mougenel, to me, as a name only, comes from Providence. We said AHL Coach of the Year, so, there is some accomplishment there. But I think back to, once upon a time, Manny Malhotra had no coaching experience.
Yep.
And really, in the blink of an eye, look at what he has done, has shot up the ranks. He's made the most of his opportunities, started as an eye in the sky under Travis Green, wanted a bench role. It wasn't there for him in Vancouver, goes to Toronto, then elects to step back, takes the job in Abbotsford, and now he's an NHL head coach. So it can be done. I mean, a lot of it is on the individuals here to make the most of their opportunities. I'm not surprised that Manny got to bring one of his bench assistants from Abbotsford. I mean, that's just kind of the way hockey works. And so I don't know if that was a difficult decision for him, one or the other, because Harry Mahesh is the other assistant that was there through the Calder Cup run. But Jordan Smith is a guy that has other AHL experience before he arrived out in the Fraser Valley. And now he's been promoted to the National Hockey League as well. So, can one of these guys sort of follow in the footsteps of Manny Malhotra while starting under Manny? Only time will tell there. But Manny's, I think, a really good indication of a guy that saw an opportunity, recognized what he wanted to do. He saw the path forward, and he has followed it perfectly to arrive at a National Hockey League head coaching job. And there are only 32 of those for the time being until Austin or Houston or whatever joins the league.
I'll say two things. One thing, you guys are right. I mean, we were sitting here talking about, will Manny survive till the other side of the rebuild? Assistants are even less likely to survive to the other side of the rebuild. What I will say, though, with regards to a no-stakes season, Jeff, of course, they don't see it that way, right? They're going to be trying to win each and every game, or at least we think so. I mean, players and coaches tend to be the ones who are putting everything into wins and losses, even if ownership and management aren't necessarily that strident about it. I just sure hope that Manny and whomever he surrounds himself with can find a better path forward than the last coaching staff did with Adam Foote, because we saw regression of young players last year, and we cannot see regression of young players for a second consecutive season. And that's why I would have liked to have seen at least one experienced hand, as Jeff had always talked about, a former NHL head coach on the bench to guard against any kind of regression going forward. Fair?
And I think, no, absolutely fair. And I wrote about this at Canucks Army yesterday. And I think this really is the point right here, right now. And we go back to this idea of cost cutting. Is that a factor for the Vancouver Canucks? Because the three main guys in player development last year were Daniel and Henrik Sedin and Jason Krog. They have all been elevated to different roles in the organization. The Sedin's obviously at the top of the food chain, and Jason Krog now an assistant coach. But these were three guys that spent time before and after and during practice and working with injured players on their way back to, the lineup and all of that. And right now, none of those has been replaced in the player development department, which for a rebuilding team seems like it would be a massive hole.
The Twins, I think, were asked about this when they were unveiled.
Well, it's a good point, too, because the Twins and Johnston can talk about the culture all they want, but if they're not given the tools to build that culture, then it falls a little flat.
I think they were asked, will you ever go back on the ice again? Were they not? And I think they said no. Do you think they might be tempted to in the end?
My sense is that they have traded the track suits for business suits full time. I don't anticipate that you're going to see them, and you certainly aren't going to see them out in Abbotsford working with whoever they bring in to be the head coach out there. No, I think that ship has sailed, at least for now. But, they were regulars. They were on the ice at just about every practice when the Canucks were at home. On the days they weren't practicing, we saw that they were out in the Fraser Valley. Like, they were all in on the player development side, and Jason Krog as well. And, I think people say, player development, how really important is it? What do these guys do? These are the guys, the player development coaches are the ones that stay out long after a morning skate with the healthy scratches. They work with the injured guys to rehab them and get them back into playing shape and all that type of stuff. So it's not just working on, 6-foot passes along the boards and that type of stuff. There's a broad range of, the job description that comes with player development. And again, for a team right now that's in the throes of this rebuild and needs all the development help it can get, I'm going to be really interested to see how they go about trying to fill some of those holes. And will they replace? I have trouble believing that they're going to bring in 3 different faces to replace the 3 that were on the ice last year in that capacity. So, let's see where it goes.
Yeah, they may have to pull double duty. As you know, a small family business, you got to do everything. You got to take out the trash and recycling
Krog
as
was
well.
skills coach for both teams.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to the current roster here, Jeff.
Oh, Matt, just one other quick thing, because I think when we know how dark the decade has been, right? And there hasn't been a lot of winning. But one area that this organization, I think, deserves its props at the very least is they may not have put a ton of players through the farm system to the National Hockey League, but damn it, if you don't look at the list of coaches that have been in the Canucks farm system that are now working in the National Hockey League, going back to Travis Green and Nolan Baumgartner and Jason King were all together down in Utica. They all, at some point, were behind the Canucks bench. Trent Cull is in Calgary now. Jeremy Colleton, he took a step back from being a head coach, but he got back to the NHL in New Jersey. He had an assistant by the name of Jeff Ulmer who took a job with the San Jose Sharks. And now you got Manny Malhotra and Jordan Smith. Like, by my count, that's 8 coaches that have been behind the bench of the Canucks minor league affiliate in the last decade. Like, I would think that stacks up with any other team and any other organization in the National Hockey League. But it kind of flies under the radar a little bit. They've done a pretty good job of producing National Hockey League coaches.
If only they produce players like they produce coaches, we'd be on to something.
1 per year almost.
That is the Jeff Paterson difference right there, though. Who else recognizes that about the Canucks over the decade of darkness? Philip Hronek got married this week. There are our visuals. I believe we have a photo here of Philip Hronek and his agent, your buddy Alan Walsh, who was in attendance and tweeting about. Yeah, nice. Look at that. Nice smiles. Ryan Johnson reiterated Philip Hronek does not want to go anywhere, Jeff. So the Canucks are into this rebuild without the ability to peddle their best asset, who's got full trade protection, or at least without the ability to peddle their best asset for now, right? Like, that could change in terms of Hronek's desire to want to stick around and babysit the kids.
You surprised me there. You said there were visuals. I was fully expecting to see Phil in tuxedo with his bride, and instead it's Phil and Alan Walsh.
We showed that. We had that earlier, actually.
That's his other partner,
exactly.
Alan Walsh. Yeah.
Work wife. All right. Look, yes, he has said that for the longest time that he's in this thing for the long haul. I don't see an issue with this. Like, yes, he's the best trade chip. He's not going to lose his trade value. When you saw what Justin Falk got on the at the trade deadline, Colton Parayko, Buffalo was lining up to get its hands on Colton Parayko, right shot defenseman that play in all situations and play the way that Philip Hronek does. He's not going to lose his value in a year or two. And so if the Canucks can mine mentorship out of Hronek and continue to play him a lot right now until they're ready to turn the keys over to some of these younger guys, I think that could be the best of both worlds for the organization, in as much as you continue to work and mold William or Tom Willander, and then at some point they're ready to sort of leave the nest, and maybe at that point some of the trade protection comes off. Maybe at that stage Philip Hronek recognizes that there isn't ton of time left in his career, and that he does at some stage decide he wants to go elsewhere and have a shot at winning. And then you package him up or you pedal him off, and I still think that he'll retain significant value just based on the position, the handedness, and the fact that he logs big minutes in all those situations. So, and I'm not in a rush. I understand the people that would love to see the Canucks get the return on a player like Filip Hronek, but I think that return is, and especially, cost controlled, a right shot defenseman that plays 25 minutes a night, a couple years down the line, a $7.5 million contract that's going to look like peanuts, really. So
That's true.
I think he's going to hold his value.
Canucks are interested in Shane Wright. They apparently reportedly asked for a young defenseman, Tom Villander's Zeev Bliam back. Does that make any sense to you?
Not really. I love Shane Wright's speed, but obviously he has not arrived at the National Hockey League with the hopes that, for the longest time, they looked like he was going to be the first overall pick that year, and then he fell to fourth. And it's like so many others down in Seattle, like they just haven't been able to get, a high draft pick to absolutely light it up. Matty Beniers is a solid player without a doubt, but I don't know that you'd say he's a star in the National Hockey League. And then the same thing goes for Shane Wright. Now, he's young, and I'm certainly not giving up on him, but I just think based on the position at this stage, like a one-for-one swap of a defenseman for a forward, and sure, like the Canucks need help up front, without a doubt, but I just don't know that I'd be prepared to go down that road and make that kind of trade. I need to see more from Shane Wright, like the Seattle Kraken, and probably like most teams in the National Hockey League, not writing him off by any stretch, but you see it in fits and starts, but just in terms of any consistency of being a player that you could count on to deliver regularly, he's not there yet, so I don't know. To me, it would be very much buyer beware.
What about if it's an older player, a veteran player, like a DeBrusque or something like that? Does that make it more interesting?
Or Elias Paterson. This isn't a rumor around Elias Paterson, but if it was.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a couple of ones. I mean, if you could get off a contract with trade protection, a forward, and the age difference at that point, yes. I mean, I think that would be far more compelling to me if I'm looking to shore up the Canucks forward ranks. You'd win on the age side of things, obviously, and again, if you're just trying to shake it up, then yeah, I mean, those are the types of trades I think I would look long and hard at. But in terms of a young defenseman for a young forward, I can't get there at this stage, even though, I mean, the Vancouver Canucks believe that at some point, whether it's Kirill Kudryavtsev become a full-time National Hockey Leaguer, Sawyer Minio at some point breaking through, like they want to believe that they've got the depth on defense, Mancini as well. Like at some point, maybe they can make that kind of trade, but I wouldn't do it right here, right now.
Okay. Give our best to Soyuz. We'll need a full briefing on the Ruck Twins when all is said and done there. Maybe they factor into an Elias Pettersson trade. Pittsburgh is interested.
I saw that. No
as well, all our friends in Kamip and in Penticton. We'll catch up next week, Jeff.
See you, Jeff.
All right, guys. Thanks.
So here's some price from the historic Wall Center, the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee. Cheer harder when you're well rested. Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center puts you minutes from the arena, miles ahead the next morning. Lock in your game day stay. wallcenter.com. Well, we haven't done a show since Wednesday. And of course, the Caps were in action that night at historic Swangard.
Yeah.
Sold it out and beat the stuffing out of Cavalry FC in the Canadian leg quarterfinal first leg. 4-1, they beat the interlopers from the CPL, one province to the east. Thomas Muller, Brian White, Ryan Alume with the goals. There was an own goal as well. Mm-hmm. Our boy Isaac Bomer of Okanagan Falls, British Columbia, started in goal, and Ryan Gauld returned.
And he started.
Played attacking midfield, his first action since last year's MLS Cup, Blake.
I didn't think he could start at all.
He played a half.
I thought they were going to give him a half hour at the end of the match.
They gave him the first 45.
Yeah.
Jesper Sorensen saying in the post-match that Gauld's minutes are being managed after yet a second long layoff here in as many years. Also, Mueller asked to be removed from the game, took a knock. He says both are good to go, but I don't suspect they'll need either of them for tonight's second leg in Calgary with a 3-goal lead on the aggregate for the reigning defending 4-time Canadian champions.
And, of course, Thursday matchup in league play. So, really, you want to save them for that. If you want to give him a cameo, particularly Gauld, because you're trying to ramp him up, you're trying to extend him. So, I think you still want to give him 30 at the very least.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ryan Gauld, yeah. Because I don't think you're
Are all the World Cup guys back now?
No, I don't think Kubas or Berhalter are back. Yeah, I saw Richie Lareya just got back for TFC. So that's the schedule for round of. If that's the schedule for round of 16ers, then should be soon.
Caps into Chicago Thursday. Do we know whether Lewandowski, the Bayern Munich and Polish legend, was set to make his Chicago Fire debut?
I have not seen any news on that yet.
Later in the week.
But, I mean, he wouldn't start because he's coming off of his offseason. But
Vancouver leads MLS West with 32 points. They have a game in hand on San Jose, who are on the same total. They are both 6 points clear of their closest pursuer. World Cup.
Before we leave the Whitecaps, we should just mention too, they're promoting sort of the second half push. In one of their social posts, it's Mueller, as you would expect, flanked by Gauld and Adekube. Like they're marketing. I don't know that there's going to be much of a midseason acquisition here for the Whitecaps, because I think they're going to say these are our midseason acquisitions. These guys are back.
Well, they also could be prepping the club for a sale. We have seen them say goodbye to a number of players here recently. And here's the thing, and I sure hope
What does that have to do with prepping the club for sale?
Well, typically you want to strip it down and give the new owners as much financial flexibility and fewer commitments as possible. But here's the thing, and I sure hope that Greg Kerfoot, Jeff Mallett, Axel Schuster recognize this. Their record and second half run isn't going to really matter if people here don't believe the club will be in Vancouver next year. It's all for naught. There's one story around the Whitecaps right now. Are you staying or are you leaving? Because if you're leaving, people are going to check out. And if you say nothing, we're at the point where no news is bad news. So that's what I sure hope comes here after this World Cup. Speaking of Spain, France, England, Argentina, the hand of God, Beckham's penalty, the Falklands War, all the ghosts between those two ancient rivals who meet again at a World Cup. Not to mention, I mean, France, Spain is one hell of a
It's two World Cup finals. It's two World Cup
really
finals.
Is.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the top 4 ranked teams in the world, including the reigning champions, Lionel Messi and Argentina. Loaded with star power, Messi, Yamal, Mbappe, Dembele, Olise, Kane. I mean, this should be scintillating soccer to what has been an astonishingly great tournament.
All but
so
Spain
far.
have a Golden Boot candidate, so that's a secondary chase that's happening from these 4 matches. Well, you get the bonus third place match as well, which contributes to the Golden Boot race as well. So lots of intrigue. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And then there's this. Gianni Infantino, FIFA head, confirms they are discussing expanding the World Cup to 64 teams after this tournament, saying every nation should have the chance to dream of playing at football's biggest event. I'm going into this story tepidly. I was a huge critic of the 32-team World Cup, and it has worked out, and it has worked out even more.
Of the 48. Of the 48.
Oh, sorry, the 48,
yeah.
And it has worked out astonishingly well. We saw minnows punch above their weight class, whether that was Cape Verde, Qatar tied Switzerland somehow, some way.
Curacao should have looked decent. Got a result.
Decent. I do think 64 is dilution. I mean, sure, we'd love to have Italy here, but can you name another country that you really needed or wanted?
No, and ultimately, you do want to have a line. Like
it's the World Cup finals, right? Like that is the official.
The dreaming of the World Cup part is the qualification. Like that's why the think about Canada qualifying for Qatar in a 32 team. Like the butterflies of facing Mexico and the United States in those massive matches. Like that's good stuff too, right? And that's part of the journey. 48 teams went off without a hitch. But the minnows that were here that did well, that showed well, like you talked about, those are the best minnows. Those are the ones that suffered through the strains of a strict qualification class. You're asking now for 20 more of those teams or 15 more of those teams.
And to be fair, Blake, there were a bunch of minnows who didn't show well in this tournament either. I mean, Tunisia wound up being
Tunisia was the bottom of the barrel for sure. But I also worry about the length of the tournament. Like, if it wasn't these four teams, if we had a less decorated four, are people starting to wear down at this point? It's been a long slog, and I don't even know, they haven't mocked up the schedule yet. How many more days is the tournament at 64 teams? I would guess it has to be a few more days.
For sure. I mean, remember 4 years ago it was Morocco and Croatia in the semis.
Yeah, that's not doing numbers, I don't think.
Certainly the soccer public the world over is watching, but how many casuals are being brought in? I saw the 94 tournament in the U.S., the Final Four.
What was it? Remind me.
So famously, Brazil beat Italy on the Baggio missed penalty.
Yeah.
The semifinalists?
Yeah.
Sweden and Bulgaria.
Yeah, wow.
How the world has changed.
Yes.
The Seattle Seahawks are now sold, and the price tag is a mere $9.612 billion with a B for the Pacific Northwest Outpost franchise in the NFL. That's 50% more than what the Washington Commanders sold for, known as one of the most valuable sports properties in America, just 3 years ago. The team is being purchased by Indian billionaire Vinod Khosla. He is a San Francisco 49ers minority partner. He's going to have to divest himself of that. He tweeted or posted about the news saying, excited to be part of this great franchise. Also excited to see the money all go to a nonprofit, the final gift from the late Seahawks, now former owner, Paul Allen, of course, the Microsoft co-founder via his sister Jody, who has been running the club. He says no other comment until the sale is final. Khosla is the co-founder of Sun Microsystems. They're pretty big, they're bigger than Dollarama. And the founder of Khosla Ventures. Forbes has named him the world's best venture capitalist. And he's got a net worth of $15 billion. So 2/3 of his net worth is going into.
He wouldn't even notice that he'd bought the Whitecaps. So,
right?
Come on,
Bernard, just up here.
You're going to be up in the region anyhow.
Right?
You wouldn't even notice it.
Sticking with football, BC Lions have filled their vacant special teams coordinator position with former Hamilton Tiger Cats special teams and O-line coach Dennis McKnight. McKnight played 10 years in the National Football League. He's also coached in Edmonton. They're back at practice today, coming off the bye. Friday, they're into Edmonton. Elks and Riders both 4-1. First place tie the CFL West, both having won this week. BC is 1-3. They're a couple of weeks away from getting back to BC Place Stadium in the first true home game of the season.
They win this next one, though. They're right in it. You feel a lot better. At 2-3, you're just like, we're arm's length from 500.
Totally fine. Edmonton will be 4-2 if that's the case.
Yeah.
Even if Saskatchewan's 5-1, you're totally
It's
fine.
a lot to sweep. I can't believe this sentence is coming out of my mouth. It's a lot to sweep the Elks. It has not traditionally been, but
more recently, back in the day, it was a whole lot to sweep the Elks, but I hear what you're saying. No sooner did USA Today baseball insider Bob Nightingale report that the Mariners are willing to trade a starting pitcher, likely Luis Castillo, to fill needs in the bullpen and with a right-handed bat. But did you see what happened yesterday? Emerson Hancock, the very first pitch of the game, is a screaming comebacker to the mound. He deflects it with his bare pitching hand. He stayed in at that point, but he did leave the game in the second inning. He didn't look so happy about it. I think it was just precautionary on the part of the M's, but we shall see. Blue Jays enter the All-Star break dead last in the American League East for the reigning American League champions.
Crazy.
45-51, 6 games below 500, 2.5 games back of the third wild card spot in the American League. Skipper John Schneider, not where we want to be. That's obvious. We've been trending in the right direction offensively, minus the Seattle series, but we definitely have to be better in some areas, whether it's on the mound, at the plate, whatever it is. There's just little things you got to get better at. And just looking for more consistency from regular guys up and down the lineup to hopefully get the offense going. Definitely not where we want to be. I can tell you that much. You've got to take the break to recoup, figure stuff out. You've got to come ready to play after the break. Yeah, there's 18 games left before the trade deadline. And look, the good news here is 2.5 games out of a wild card. But I think Blue Jays have to do something over these next 3 weeks when they get back to show Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, and management that this is a team worth investing in and peeling more farm assets to.
I don't think I believe what I'm about to say, but would they be a scary wild card team? Given
I think so.
Like, does anybody want to face the not the performance of the players on that team, but at least the reputation of the players on that team? I think that is true if they can muster away. At the same time, like, it's, you know, the thing with the Major League Baseball season, it's a large sample size.
Yes.
Like, you're getting a long look, and the number of good spells from any of the players, it's not really there. Like, just keep waiting for somebody to get red hot or do.
And like last year, the mantra was no easy outs, right? Like, everybody put bat to ball. They were a hard team to strike out. They put the ball in play. They forced the other team's defense to level up day after day. Some of that DNA is still there, Blake.
Yeah.
There seems to be a fielder everywhere they're hitting it. Vancouver Canadians. How about erasing a 7-run deficit at the Nat yesterday?
That's not giving up. That is perseverance.
Blue Jays would take 2 weeks to score 9 runs. Seas scored that many in their final game before the minor league all-star break. They win 9-8 over Everett. Finish 10-11 going into the break in the second half standings. Remember, in the Northwest League, the 2 playoff spots are given to the team that finishes with the best record in the first half of the year and the second half of the year.
And remind me what happens if the same team wins both halves?
Then it is combined record, both first and second half of the next best team that gets the other spot in the Northwest League final. Seas are off till Friday when they resume with games in Tri-City and Hillsborough. Next home game is Tuesday, July 28th. Folks, the Seas are now routinely selling these games out. 4 of 6 last week were sellouts. There is only 18 games left in the home schedule, so encourage you to plan ahead and get your tickets early. 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Those Tuesday 75-cent hot dog nights are very popular. The Friday nooners, the Saturday, Sunday games, also very popular now. But they're doing so well, Blake, they're selling Thursdays and Wednesdays out too. Wednesday, Thursday might be your best chance at tickets. Plan ahead. Get them early. How about this stat? Dylan Cease is starting the All-Star game for the American League, Blue Jays starter. It's the first All-Star game starter since the late Roy Doc Halladay in 2009. Christopher Sanchez starting for the Phillies. First All-Star game starter for the Phillies since 2011, the late Roy Doc Halladay. And it was the baseball draft this past weekend. Some congratulations go out to 3 British Columbians who heard their names selected over the 20 rounds. Foremost, Port Coquitlam's Sean Duncan. He's a big left-handed pitcher, selected in the second round, 63rd overall by the New York Yankees. Now, we have a colleague here, Blake, whose sons are involved in baseball. Been talking to him about Sean Duncan for a little while. On Friday, to my astonishment, I saw Kylie McDaniel, the ESPN minor league and draft expert, say the Yankees are really excited about the Canadian prep lefty. Expect him to be selected if he gets there. And sure enough, they did.
Wow.
So we're going to see about getting Sean on the show here later this week. Also, congratulations to Langley's Cole Dorland. He's a right-handed pitcher with the Langley Blaze and the Canadian junior national team. He went to Atlanta in the 13th round. And then right-hander Will Zielinski, also on the junior national team of Victoria, selected in the 20th round by the Detroit Tigers. In fact, the Detroit Tigers drafted a number of Canadians. Golf, where it's Open Championship week from Royal Birkdale, hosting the event for the first time since 2017 when Jordan Spieth won. And we're coming off some very encouraging finishes from Canadians on tour.
Neither of whom will be teeing it up at Birkdale.
Sadly. Well,
Yes.
yeah.
The hottest player in the Canadian roster is on the LPGA. And
Wow.
kudos to Brooke Henderson, because I did not think she could get back to this, but this is now back-to-back majors in which she has looked spectacular. And there's another one coming up.
Brooke Henderson loses a playoff at the Evian Championship in France, an LPGA major. She had also looked good at the LPGA Championship
Yes.
a couple of weeks earlier. How about the heroic effort from Brooke yesterday in Sunday's final round? As Shane Bacon, a longtime golf writer and broadcaster, tweeted, one of the most ridiculous final round scorecards I've ever seen from someone in contention. Brooke goes out, makes 3 eagles, including a hole-in-one, shoots a 7-under 64, which got her into the playoff.
Shouldn't have bogeyed 17, Brooke.
Heyran Yu is won 2 in a row. She has become quite a star on the LPGA Tour, but well done on Brooke. Taylor Pendrith also loses in a playoff at the Off-Field ISCO Championship. Then our boy Sudarshan Yelamaraju, who I do believe is playing the Open
He's
Championship.
not.
He's not?
No, he was going there to try to get a good result at the Scottish to get in,
Blake.
and he didn't do it.
He is a couple shots off the lead going into Sunday. He shoots 7 under, the worst round on the course.
7 over, yes.
Or, sorry,
Yeah.
7 over, the worst round on the course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad. And then for Pendrith, first playoff hole, he's got a 9-footer to win. Like for them, that's a 4-footer for us.
Mm-hmm.
And he just he pounded it for some reason.
And then world number 1 Scotty Scheffler makes news as well. Blake, be on the lookout for locusts and plagues. Why? Scotty Scheffler missed a cut, everybody.
Yeah. So did Oberg.
He shot 2 over 72 at the Scottish Open. It is his first missed cut since the FedEx St. Jude Championship in 2022. It breaks a run of 78 consecutive made cuts across the last 5 seasons. We have some historical reference for you, courtesy of Kyle Porter here, golf writer. The last time Scotty missed a cut, Taylor Swift was dating Joe Alwyn. Tom Brady was the Tampa Bay Buccaneer. The World Cup hadn't started yet. The one in Qatar. Alcaraz and Sinner had 0 Grand Slams between them. Of course, Sinner now has yet another Grand Slam after winning Wimbledon. And Elon Musk did not own Twitter.
Oh, good days. There's some really good players that missed the cut this week.
I will say this, and shout out to my buddy Sandy at Carlos O'Brien's, who mentioned to me as we were discussing this on Friday. Historically, these made cut runs don't really measure up anymore because, of course, you have these signature events with no cut, like
Yes.
right, like the Tigers and the Jacks of the world
we're
would
gonna have to park
play
this
week
stat.
to week
Yeah.
on the consecutive cuts. Here are your notable groups for round 1 and round 2 of the Open Championship. I like what they've done here. They've paired Brits alongside Americans and Europeans. So you got Russell Henley, Justin Rose, Victor Hovland, Scheffler with Tyrrell Hatton and Bryson DeChambeau, Jordan Spieth with Tommy Fleetwood. This is Fleetwood's backyard in Birkdale. John Rahm, Chris Gotterup, Adam Scott, Sam Burns, Morikawa, Spawn, Højgaard, Lowry, Rye, and Koepka, Young, Clark, and Oberg, and then McIlroy, Schauffele, and Fitzpatrick.
It's Fleetwood's home course.
Used to sneak on there as a child.
Fitzpatrick's got a lot of helium these days with the way he's playing.
I thought he had a chance there yesterday at the Scottish Open. A couple of wayward shots cost him.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait.
Better sporting experience in Vancouver. It was our poll question last week. The Olympics in 2010, the World Cup in 2026, people said.
People said Olympics.
They did. Percentage?
70.
74. Pretty good, Blake. Cole says, World Cup was incredible vibe. But the Olympics were more of a spotlight on Vancouver. It was ours alone. Not wrong, Cole.
Yeah, and it showed more of our region.
Of course, all the way up to Whistler.
Yeah.
Mark says the 2010 Olympics had so much going on with so many different venues and events that it felt like a grander scale was something for everyone. But that's not to say the 2026 World Cup wasn't also great and had so much better vibes than all the naysayers and critics had bleated on about.
Yep.
It's an important point, that last one. And Matt says, I'm sure the World Cup was awesome. I only answer the Olympics because I lived in Vancouver during 2010 and I have memories that I will treasure forever. Yep. Ditto. Completely understand.
Well, that's why we asked the question, was that it's not that one was obviously good and one was obviously bad. It was, they were both amazing. So
Yep.
we were asking you to pick between, it was Sophie's choice. It was tough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No errors and omissions from Wednesday's show. We thank you for joining us. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. As mentioned earlier in the show, while we do go down to a smaller summer schedule, we are still here each and every week with between 2 and 4 shows a day. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our podcast, whatever platform you may use. Leave a like while you're there. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Almost forgot about the Blue Sky there. Usually weekdays, noon Pacific time. We will update you as we go along, though. No show this Friday. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors we tell you about. They allow us to make this thing happen. Keep it local.